Individuality is an important aspect of life. We live in a society and working together for a common goal is definitely necessary. But on a personal level, having your own identity and opinions is what makes you, well, you. In many places today, you're free to not agree with whoever's in charge. You can disagree with their policies and still walk free amongst society. Sometimes, though, you either praise the person at the top or you pay the ultimate price. The Jacobite cause, emerging prominently in the late 17th century, was fueled by the desire to restore the House of Stuart to the British throne after the deposition of King James VII and II during the Glorious Revolution of 1688. Now I know what you're thinking. Did he just say James VII and II? I did. It was before the formation of the United Kingdom, so King James ruled both England and Ireland as James II and Scotland as James VII. Eventually, King James, a Roman Catholic, fled to France after being overthrown by William of Orange, who later became William III. That event marked the beginning of a series of uprisings led by the Jacobites, who were staunch supporters of the Stuart claim to the throne. The Jacobites were not merely fighting for a change in monarchy, but were deeply intertwined with the broader European political landscape. Their efforts were supported by France, among other enemies of Britain, who saw the Jacobite cause as a strategic distraction that could weaken Britain's military campaigns overseas. That support was evident during various risings, notably when Charles Edward Stuart, known as Bonnie Prince Charles, launched the 1745 Jacobite Rising. Despite initial setbacks, including the loss of essential supplies due to attacks on his ships, Charles's charismatic leadership and the promise of French aid rallied significant Highland support. The Highland clans played an important role in the political and military activities of Scotland, particularly during the Jacobite risings. Clans such as the MacDonalds of Glencoe were pivotal not only due to their strategic positions but also because of their complex relationships with other clans and the government. The MacDonalds of Glencoe, alongside other clans like the MacGregors and the MacDonalds of Keppoch, were known for their fierce independence and occasional lawlessness, which often brought them into conflict with governmental policies aimed at pacifying the Highlands. Those clans were deeply rooted in the fight for Scottish independence and had historical ties to figures like Robert the Bruce. Their involvement in major conflicts, such as the battles at Sheriffmuir and Culloden, highlighted their significant influence and the tragic consequences they faced in those turbulent times. Post-Culloden, the government's harsh reprisals led to severe suppression of the Highland way of life, including the dismantling of the clan system, which had been a cornerstone of the Scottish Highland culture. The long-standing feud between the MacDonalds and the Campbells had roots stretching back to the 13th century when both clans began to emerge prominently in Argyll. Initially, the families were interconnected through marriages and were allies supporting Robert the Bruce's efforts to free Scotland from English domination in the 14th century. However, as the political landscape evolved, their paths diverged significantly. The power of Clan Campbell was significantly bolstered through unwavering loyalty to the Scottish king, a strategy that included marital alliances with the royal family. That contrasted with Clan Donald, which had established its base through the military prowess of their ancestor Somerled, who challenged the Norwegian control of the Isles in the 12th century. Over the centuries, the dynamics between those clans were influenced by the differing alignments and loyalties to the Scottish crown. The Campbells often found favor with the monarchy, which granted them lands that had been confiscated from the MacDonalds, further fueling the discord between the clans. That animosity was evident during the Glencoe Massacre, which, although orchestrated by the governments in London and Edinburgh, was steeped in the complex web of clan rivalries and betrayals that characterized the Scottish Highlands at the time. The political alignment of the Highland clans were not only pivotal in their rivalries but also in shaping broader Scottish political movements. During the tumultuous periods of the Jacobite Rising, clans such as the MacDonalds of Glencoe and Keppoch, the MacGregors, and the Camerons were often at the forefront supporting the Jacobite cause to restore the Stuart monarchy. That was exemplified in 1689 when the Camerons and Keppoch MacDonalds joined forces with Viscount Dundee in a Jacobite campaign, showing their deep-rooted resistance to the new Protestant monarchy established in England. The targeting of the Glencoe MacDonalds by governmental forces under the direction of John Dalrymple, the Master of Stair, highlighted the intricate interplay of personal vendettas and political maneuvering. The decision to make an example of the MacDonalds was influenced by a complex mix of factors, including internal clan dynamics and the broader geopolitical aspirations of rival clans such as the Campbells and the Macleans. In the aftermath of the Jacobite uprisings, the political landscape saw former rivals such as members of the Campbell and MacDonald clans serving together in the British Army. That showed just how often the nature of clan allegiances changed depending on the political environment. In late January of 1692, the Earl of Argyll's regiment of foot, led by Robert Campbell of Glenlyon, arrived in Glencoe. Campbell, a local landowner whose financial struggles were well known, was accompanied by approximately 120 men. His orders were for free quarter, which allowed them to stay as non-paying guests in the homes of the MacDonald clan, a common practice in a society that largely operated without cash. The underlying motive, however, was far more sinister. On January 30th, Secretary of State James Dalrymple, Master of Stair, sent letters emphasizing the need for secrecy and the importance of ensuring that the MacDonalds would not escape the impending attack. That directive was a culmination of a series of political maneuvers aimed at punishing the MacDonalds for their late allegiance to King William, missing the deadline set by a royal proclamation in August of 1691. Basically, the MacDonalds had failed to pledge allegiance to King William III fast enough and were now being punished. The massacre began in the early hours of February 13th. Under the cover of darkness, the soldiers who had been quartered with the MacDonalds for almost 2 weeks turned on their hosts. The attack was meticulously planned. Lieutenant Colonel James Hamilton was to block the northern exits of Glencoe at Kinlochleven with 400 men, while another 400 under Major Duncanson would join Campbell sweeping northwards through the glen. They were ordered to kill anyone they found, confiscate property, and burn down houses. The brutality of the massacre was stark. Reports indicate that the clan chief, MacLean, was executed while he was dressing. His wife was brutally attacked and fled into the hills, where she likely perished from exposure. In a gruesome display of cruelty, a toddler and an elderly man were amongst those mercilessly killed. Houses were set on fire, sometimes with people still inside, attempting to hide or escape the carnage. While the official records from Hamilton's men stationed at the opposite end of the glen cited 38 casualties, the MacDonalds themselves reported about 25. Modern research estimates the death toll to be around 30, with additional unverified claims of others dying from exposure following the attack. The event not only exemplified the extreme measures taken by the government, but also highlighted the tragic consequences of clan rivalries and political allegiances in Scottish history. Following the Glencoe Massacre, the shock and horror that reverberated through Scottish society led to an outcry for justice. In 1693, the Scottish Parliament demanded an inquiry into the massacre, but initial efforts to investigate were stalled. It wasn't until the 1695 session that authorities relented and a commission of inquiry was established. That commission submitted a report in June of 1695 condemning the massacre as barbarous and inhumane and explicitly calling it murder. Although most of the main actors, including military personnel and even the king, escaped condemnation, John Dalrymple, the Master of Stair, was singled out. The commission's report stated that Dalrymple's actions had, quote, exceeded your majesty's instructions, and that he had ordered the MacDonalds to be, quote, destroyed without any further consideration. That led to his formal censure in Parliament, although he never faced trial, effectively making him a scapegoat for the whole incident. The massacre had a profound impact on public perception both in Scotland and abroad. Initially reported in France, the news eventually reached the wider Scottish public, where it was met with shock and termed a terrible crime. The event significantly damaged the reputation of William III, though he was ultimately absolved of direct wrongdoing. The blame was largely placed on Clan Campbell, despite the involvement of only a dozen or so Campbells, demonstrating the complexities of clan rivalries and the scapegoating that followed. In the broader historical narrative, the massacre became emblematic of post-1688 oppression and was utilized by the Jacobite symbol during the Rising of 1745. It also influenced the portrayal of Scottish history, particularly during the Victorian era, where Scotland's past was romanticized and integrated into cultural identity, often overshadowing academic historical discourse. That period saw the massacre being incorporated into the emotional trappings of the Scottish past, which included elements like tartan mania, the popularization of wearing Scottish-designed clothing, which is often referred to as plaid in North America. Eventually, Scotland would sign the Acts of Union with England in 1707 and create the United Kingdom, which would lead to the Jacobite Rising of 1745 and then the Highland Clearances. You can check out the episode I made about the Highland Clearances, a link is in the description. The massacre also played a role in shaping views on the Anglo-Scottish Union of 1707. For some, it underscored the victimization of Scotland under a monarchy more concerned with England, while for others it highlighted the perceived brutishness of the Scots, bolstering arguments for the Union as a means of rescuing Scotland. The legacy of mistrust and resentment between the Scottish Highland clans and the English government has persisted, with the people of Scotland still talking about their possible independence to this day. Thanks for letting us tell you this sinister story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and hit like, rate it, or leave a comment. Join us next week when we'll take you somewhere sinister.